One of my favorite games growing up was Mega Man 8 for the PlayStation 1. On top of the crazy colorful pixel graphics and addicting soundtrack, being able to choose your own stage order and snatch powers away from defeated bosses were both things that I hadn't really seen before in video games, so my mind was blown. Later on, I fell in love with the X series and many of the other amazing spin offs that the franchise spawned over time. But since my first Mega Man game was for the PlayStation 1 and I never really went backwards after that, it occurred to me recently that I never actually played any of the original Mega Man games. Was I just a big fat fake Mega Man fan? In order to pay homage to this video game series that has always been very special to me, I decided that I wanted to go all the way back to its origins to see how the franchise has kind of evolved over time. So I grabbed the Anniversary Collection on Steam and braced myself for the sadistic NES era game design of Mega Man 1. Capcom had previously only worked on arcade games, so Mega Man 1 was their very first console game, released in 1987. In Japan, Mega Man is known as Rockman, which is meant to be a play on rock and roll, referencing his robot sister Roll. The music theme names actually continue throughout the franchise and characters like blues, beat, bass, and treble. But when they went to release Rockman 1 in the USA, Capcom decided this reference wouldn't really translate properly to a Western audience. So they went with Mega Man in English because it gave them more of the cool name vibe they were looking for, I guess. Another fun fact is that one of the names they were considering was Rainbow Man, since Mega Man changes color depending on the boss power he's using. He was this close to being a gay icon, chat. We were robbed. Mega Man 1 launches you directly from the title screen into the stage select screen, where you're met with a beautiful blue screen of death background and a choice between 6 bosses and a stupidly catchy beep boop song. One of the coolest things about the Mega Man franchise is your ability to strategically pick your own stage order based on which powers you want first and what each boss is weak to. I chose Fireman because he's the hottest. Mega Man's 4 moves in this game are walk, jump, shoot, and climb ladder. Appropriately simple for the NES era. While the platforming is not too crazy on its own, Mega Man has a very sinister way of placing enemies so that they constantly fuck up your jumps and send you plummeting into instant death pits. Is that a bullet bill? You do have kind of a hefty life bar and can take a lot of hits before dying, but some of the damage in this game requires incredibly precise positioning and timing to properly avoid. And if you aren't careful, you'll end up in the boss room with 1 HP.
Oh fuck, I have no health! How am I supposed to do this?
Okay. Fireman was fucked up. I don't know who designed this boss, but they should have been fired. It felt like playing a fighting game against someone spamming the same projectile attack over and over again, but without being able to block. I beat him by stealing his strategy and just spamming shots without even trying to dodge his attacks, which only works because your invulnerability frames last longer than his, so he takes more damage than you do. But here's a fun twist. It wasn't until after making this video that I realized his AI shoots only when you shoot. So the reason this fight was so hard was because of my shot spam all along. Is the boss design awful, or am I just an idiot? It's literally impossible to know. When you defeat a boss in this game, there isn't any fancy animation like in some of the other games, but you do get a nice little jingle accompanied by your score for the level. Scores were a common thing in NES games at the time as a tie-in to arcade culture, which was all about getting those high scores. Moving on to Gutsman next, this stage shows us the first incarnation of the Metal, one of the most iconic enemies of the Mega Man franchise, and introduces this fun ride that delivers you straight to hell. Sounds that haunt my dreams. It's worth noting that the stages in Mega Man 1 are pretty short, and you can get to the boss of each stage in just a few minutes if you don't make any mistakes, which is a lot easier said than done. Gutsman's fight is kind of funny in that he just kind of flops around on his stage and throws a rock every once in a while. His main gimmick is that when he lands you get stunned, so you have to time your jumps to avoid it. I had a significantly easier time with this one than I did with Fireman. At the beginning of Cutman's stage, we test out Gutsman's power and see that it only lets you throw these special blocks that are placed around certain stages, which makes it feel weirdly situational. We also see Fireman's power kick some ass here with its combined close range and long range components. Okay, this machine is particularly funny to me because Cutman's stage doesn't represent Cutman very well. So the devs were like, well, we have to add something to represent the boss, and just threw in this random machine that shoots out Pac-Man scissors and called it a day. Apparently, Cutman took jumping lessons from Gutsman, but every time he jumps, it looks like he's trying to poop. His main mechanic is a slow-moving boomerang that's pretty easy to dodge, and he wasn't too much trouble other than the occasional personal space invasion. Moving on to Elecman's stage, we finally reach my favorite song in the whole game.
Banger alert, by the way, chat.
Remember the hell movers from Gutsman's stage? Well, this is their cousin, the blocks. These trauma-inducing blocks are recurring characters throughout the franchise, so if their unique sound isn't embedded into your brain yet, it will be after the next 10 games. Cutman's power got some good use here because of its unique trajectory. Flying enemies are notoriously annoying in the Mega Man series, and especially in Mega Man 1, since you can't actually aim your Mega Buster upwards. So weapons like this that have a vertical component are always very appreciated, and I was a big fan of this power. Something interesting that sets Elecman's stage apart from other stages is that there's actually a weapon hidden here called the Magnet Beam that lets you create your own platforms. You do need this gun to progress in a later stage, so I was surprised to see that it's missable if you don't have a power to get rid of these blocks. Elecman himself isn't too crazy, other than the fact that his shots take off 1/3 of your health bar? I have no idea why they chose this guy specifically to do so much damage, but if you abuse his weakness, he does die pretty fast, so I guess that's the trade-off. Iceman's stage starts off pretty vibey with some slidey ice and frozen palm trees, but then this green weirdo comes waltzing by. Later on, there are some cute penguin enemies, which is more in line with what I was expecting from this stage. And oh look, it's our favorite! Iceman's attack pattern requires some tight jumps, but luckily you can just not deal with all of that by shocking him to death instead. Bombman's stage was kind of like Cutman's stage in that it felt a little generic thematically, but at the end of the stage you do have to climb down this long ladder to get to the boss room, which can be seen as some sort of underground bunker, I guess. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, I don't know. You'll never guess what Bombman does! He throws bombs! This is crazy? He goes down pretty fast with Fireman's power. Hey, you're not looking too hot, Bombman. Bombman was the last of the 6 robot masters, so now Dr. Wily appears on the stage select screen. This starts the game's Wily Castle segment, which functions as the endgame for every Mega Man title. These sections usually call for the usage of every power you've gained so far, as we see a cool environmental interaction here with Iceman's power, and a room where the only way to progress is through the Magnet Beam. The first boss of Wily's Castle is the Yellow Yellow Devil. This iconic blob man is known for his unique attack pattern of throwing his own flesh chunks at you in a very precise order. The jump timing for this fight is very tough, and I think this is known as one of the hardest fights in the game. It definitely took me quite a few tries to get right, but you just gotta zap him in the eyeball enough time before he melts into the background. Is he dead? Wily Stage 2 opens with a group of these smiley dive bomber enemies welcoming me to the next area. Wow, they look so happy to be ruthlessly murdering me. A couple of trapdoors sent me into a rematch with Cutman and Elecman, where we make quick work of them because now we know what their weaknesses are. And then we drop into the dance party room where we have to fight ourselves? This boss probably had people shitting themselves back in the day because honestly, it's a pretty cool twist for its time. The clone actually mimics whatever power you swap to. I really struggled with this boss, so I decided to be a filthy cheater and employ a trick I saw in a speedrun once. When the game is paused, the boss's invincibility timer after you hit him still runs out during the pause screen, so you can hit him with multiple shots in a row by pausing and unpausing the game after each shot connects, while taking minimal damage from the boss in return. This is the kind of thing that made NES gaming iconic in my opinion. Like, yeah, the system had all of these weird glitches and slowdowns, but you could harness them for the power of cheating and evil. Stage 3 sees us being propelled forward by a stream of water, until we run into Bubble Boss, who Elecman's power shits on because of its vertical properties. Honestly, Elecman's power gets so much use that I think it might be the best power in the game. Hey look, it's the final stage! We're about to beat the game! After a modest 20-ish deaths on this part, we get our rematches with Fireman, Bombman, Gutsman, and Iceman. This was a bit tricky because you do have to fight them back to back, and you don't get any healing in between each fight. Once they're defeated, we move on to the final boss, Dr. Wily himself. He comes hovering out in a UFO-like machine, kind of reminiscent of the Dr. Robotnik fights in Sonic, but with a questionable bullet pattern that's pretty easy to avoid. Once you get his life bar down, there's a second phase? I can't believe this? The second phase's bullet pattern was much harder to dodge with this bizarre spiral motion and how thick the bullet was. And the worst part about dying here is that if you lose all of your lives, you have to redo both the Spike segment and the boss rematches before contesting Wily again. So that happened a few times, but then I remembered the most OP weapon in the game and used it to take down the senile scientist once and for all. Megaman 1 completed! Given that there are now over 50 Megaman titles, and the character of Megaman has found his way into games like Smash Bros, as well as into the hearts of gamers everywhere, it's safe to say that Megaman 1 was a huge success in introducing the iconic blue Shooty Man. Interestingly, Megaman 1 initially did not sell very well in North America, and most people attribute that to the game's infamous cover art. Here's the Japanese cover art. Looks fine, right? It shows Megaman and all the bosses just hanging out with Wily Tower in the background. But since Rockman was rebranded to Megaman in the US, they decided that the NA version of the game needed its own cover art. I mean, all they really need to do is switch out the word Rockman with Megaman, so it can't be... It's beautiful. The supposed story to this cover art is that it had to be rushed out within a day, so this is what came out. Maybe one day Capcom will give us a real Mega Man remake based on the poop squatting Cryptid Man featured in this box art. It was cool getting to finally experience the origin of one of my favorite video game characters and to just see where it all began. While it's easy to poke fun at its sometimes laughably frustrating game design, Mega Man 1 was truly revolutionary for its time, and I'm so glad Mega Man made it despite that awful box art, otherwise one of my favorite franchises would not exist. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my journey through Mega Man 1. Bye fuckers!